pleasure to be in conversation with Raúl. As Lulu mentioned before, we know each other for a lot of time. Actually, I met Raúl when I was doing a research during my years as a student of art history in Havana University. I remember I was researching on Cuban video art, and Raúl practice was very important for my research, as he developed a very important body of work on this regard. But you know, years have passed. I've been following Raúl practice. His practice has changed a little bit, and for a few years now, it has a focus more on painting, even if he has developed different type of artworks, installations, and videos also. So I would like to start this conversation with Raúl by asking him about this body of works that focuses on painting and has this relationship with the image and the text. How is this important for his practice, and how he came to find this need of putting together these two languages in dialogue in his work?
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining, Lulu and Meyken for making this possible. Um, yeah, I was always interested since many years ago, probably 30 years ago, in using text, writing and image making as possibly the two main languages used by humanity in order to record information, to publish information, to share it. But that's what we also use to educate, to indoctrinate, to create truth, to say what's true, what's not. You know, power. Use those two languages all the time. It is not enough when someone writes something to you, if they can demonstrate that with an image. It's even more easy to believe. And then in regards to art, I was always very intrigued by this idea that some people said that they could see art, like let's say like abstract paintings, and they could explain you those paintings. They could understand what this painting would mean or whatever, and they could even explain that to other people. So when I was a kid, I saw that, and it seemed to me such a strange idea, and totally foolish, you know, idea even to listen to that explanation. That I always thought about this idea while growing and going to art school and all kinds of different places and instances where you learn different things about this idea of reading art. What was something like reading art? So I started making this type of art that people could see, but they also could read. I actually don't believe in that art could be read in any way, but if you put a text on it, that text can be read. Um, and that's how I started doing that. And I was also, you know, it's basically the two languages that until today, since the creation of all books and all knowledge until today. For example, what is internet composed of? Writing and image. That's all, or moving image and writing, but not much, not many other things than that. And that's what I started exploring with painting many years ago, then with video, and then with installations. And what I do is basically I come from painting, and I create paintings which I can later take elements from and make installations, video pieces, and different other mediums that I use.
Yes, so in this body of works that where you create paintings and you mix and you create that dialogue with the words, the texts, and the images, one might think that there's only these two layers in your work, but when you start looking at it, when you start reading about it, you realize that it's a multi-layer type of work that beyond these two languages of image and text, there's much more in it of references to the art history, references to the processes you are using in your work. So I want to ask you about that interest and that reference to the quantum physics in your work. That is something that you have developed lately.
Well, I was always very close, and my main medium was oil painting. I studied, classical oil painting in Amsterdam for many years, and I have to say I'm a lover of all this tradition that started back in the 17th century. And since today, I don't think that there has been any better medium invented for art than oil painting. But at some point, 3 years ago, I started not feeling good. I went to the doctor, and I was diagnosed with chronic intoxication from using oil for many years and breathing its thinners, and being in a studio every single day of my life for so many hours. And I had to stop using oil as a matter of, you know, being well. So overnight, I have to think about, what am I going to use? And because of this same layered way of the painting I used to make with oil, with many, many, many layers, I found out, it was very difficult to simulate that with acrylic or watercolors or other medias. So I started trying airbrushing acrylics, a very special kind of filter acrylics in very thin layers of almost transparent layers of color. Uh, but it was such a different thing that I decided that I was also going to have to come up with some other type of painting that would in some way express or be coherent with that way of applying paint. um, I observed what I was doing, and I saw that I was just pushing, blowing colors of particles of color onto a surface, and I decided to start by painting that, just particles of color, very big, blown up, and just to start from there. And by doing all these and researching about life scenes from the life of particles, from this idea that everything in life is composed by particles, by vibration, I ended up studying quantum physics. And a whole new road in my work developed after that. And I still like when I mix this type of painting with the other figurative paintings I do. Let me just try to connect this better. I think I'm running out of battery in my computer.
Okay.
Okay, I'm good now. Sorry. So yeah, that's how I got into quantum physics.
Interesting. That's what it's, I think, fascinating about your work. Like you start finding references and layers of meaning and associations with the process itself, with the media, the history of painting, because sometimes those paintings that we see on the background of those texts, they have a history on their own. They have a specific reason why you choose them to mix with some sort of message. So each of these paintings is a word in itself. And one of the things that I was very interested about was that image, that it's like a sort of an abstract but also figurative image of these spheres, this group of spheres that sometimes is the background of those texts, and it comes from that explanation that Raúl just gave about quantum physics and his interest in depicting particles. So, so with that said, I think we can talk about the work that you have been doing here during these 2 months in the studio in Midtown Manhattan. You have been working a lot. There are a lot of new works. That's why Lulu at the beginning of the talk was inviting everyone to visit the studio on Saturday. That we're going to have an open studio to show those great works. So I don't know if you can share with us your images of those artworks, if you have it, or telling us a little bit about that, this group of works that you have been doing here.
Oh, I can share image of previous artwork because I don't know, I wasn't prepared actually to show the new
Okay,
stuff.
no
And I think
worries.
it's even better if people can see it in the studio in the flesh.
Yeah, let's
But
keep the surprise
um,
for.
but I can show. Let's see. Um, I can share images like this. This is basically the some of the pieces I do. This is a piece that is a triptych, and many of you may recognize the center reference it has is to work by Mande Hoogema from 1668, called the Allied Middle Harness. About what I was explaining before, and um, this is a foundational work for me because it's probably the first time that someone invented an element into a landscape. Basically, what happened with this was that this painter, who used to be wine taster at the harbor in Amsterdam in the 17th century, he painted landscapes during the weekend. He was commissioned to paint this farm, which it was a very boring, flat landscape with not much, compositional interest. And he decided to invent these trees in the middle of the landscape. Uh, the curious thing about this is that he did not paint the trees that he had seen before. He was trying to paint palm trees, and he had never seen palm trees. He was just referring to the descriptions of the sailors who would come from the Caribbean, and they had seen in the islands in the Caribbean the palm trees, and they were all fascinated by the palm trees. So this guy painted these trees from a verbal description. And for me, that is something that is really foundational in the whole structure of my art, since it mixes, image and writing, and text and image, which are two languages that have no translation into each other, even though we speak about art a lot and we read about it and we write about it, but two different languages that don't have translation into each other. But in this case, a, a verbal description ended up being an image by some other person who heard about it. So for me, it's like a foundational thing when a piece of text became an image. It became that. And the curious thing is also how this when this stops just being not stop but transcend from being just art to being part of a culture in Europe, in that part of Flanders, for many years, people thought that the palm trees would look like that because it was probably the only image that would depict them in in all that area. No one else had paid attention to that before. So whenever people saw this painting, that by the way was rejected as a commission, because the guy who commissioned that said, "What did you get those trees from?" And the painter said, "I don't know. They were there the day I came to draw. Maybe you cutted them." And they started a fight, and the commission was rejected. The painting is today at the National Gallery in London. But it's this whole idea of what's before, what's after, what does things come from. That is actually in my interest and that's how I create my work. In this case, I mix in just one piece images of how I see the quantum field, how I see vibration, energy, particles, all that, with this landscape that is a reference to something that was made many centuries ago. Uh, and it becomes like a poem. It's a poem of things, and what they say the paintings is the things we thought were true, the things we found out about, and the things we took for granted. Um, I usually enjoy mixing all these different ranges in which I create images into exhibitions. And basically, in any exhibition of those I do, what you see is a juxtaposition always of different ranges I paint. Then I paint also interiors like this because I like to separate, the way I view things in, when things are in like broad light, that you could see them in like landscapes or whatever is out, and you can see, they have light in them, on them, and then with the development of life, we human beings started to live inside in caves and then in homes, and we had to bring the light inside. So I'm very interested in this phenomenon of depicting light and light sources. And these are another of those types of paintings, which I call my second range. And then the third range is this vibrational, where there is no light, where you cannot see anything. And basically what we do is imagine what's inside. We're imagining all the time images of cells, of particles, of electrons, protons, photons, but that cannot be seen. It is not a matter of, it's just a matter of their actual size and the properties of our eyes. Even with the most sophisticated microscopes or something, we cannot get to see those. Every single image produced and published by science that we have seen is all invented. We have we have not been able to observe ever this field just because it's too small for us to see. And I'm also very interested in this idea that life today is it's very much pushed forward by the nano reality. The more we advance in science and technology, events in the nano size are producing big developments in life. And I would say that since my work tries to be a portrait of the times, since just like, when you see paintings from the 15th, 16th, 17th century, they would describe a life the way it was back in that time. I am very interested in portraying these times we live. And for me, focusing in some part of my work, focusing on the nano reality is it's part of it. So I hope
Yes,
I
thank you for
answered.
sharing and explaining this. I think this explanation that you have just give can also give everybody a sense of what I was saying or about your work and those multiple references that you can find just in one work about different things. And for example, when you paint that landscape, how that's associated with the tradition of the genre of landscape and the idea of how a dialogue of language like texts and image was creating a new reality in that case. And that's, juxtaposed with another text of yours for a more like complete vision of that work. So that's, well, part of that body of work is what you will be able to see on the open studio, because Raúl has continued to create paintings with the same idea of juxtaposing text on top of images. And this exhibition, we could say, or open studio on Saturday, it's going to have a title, and the title is Tales of an Indexed World. And I was actually talking to Raúl in the past few days about the title and how he was very much interested in the way in which the search engines of the web index pages, and they are giving us responses, and they are providing us with an idea of the world based on that type of index. So that's another way in which we see Raúl's interest in today's issues and how we see his work as an archive of the contemporary times. So about that work in that you have been developing in New York, about this idea of the index, you want to add something?
Well, yes, I like referring, as you say, to many different aspects. I would say my work is like summatory of very different aspects in which is, they're not very clear to be seen, but very different aspects of how I see the world these days. For example, this was seen, you may find out that in these paintings, never what is written on top of the image is, sorry, it's in relationship, in clear, direct relationship with the images themselves. And for me, this is a way in which I address this content state in which we live these days, that we all the time, we live so distracted these days, that we're all the time looking at something while thinking about something else. And I am very interested in this notion too. Like, for example, also in my work, I believe that I'm organizing this painting, this type of painting, in a way that um, look for new paintings, that, for me, in this relationship of image and background in the paintings, the background is what is painted and the image is what is written on top of that background. For me, a text can also be an image. Whenever you read that, it becomes an image in your mind too. And I've been, like creating this exercise in a way of deconstructing painting in a different way, which I think is something, these days is a difficult task, but I try to do it in many of these ways. I created, this is another reference to daily life and the way people see art. I created this alphabet like 25 years ago, where we can, which is called RC particles type font. And that's what I use to put text on top of the images. And it's also based on this idea that everything it's made out of particles. It's made out of rounded shapes, and it brings every single character to a synthesis that makes it very difficult to be read. So the idea on this alphabet, which is like the anti-alphabet, is that people have to spend a longer time in front of a painting or any, hold on, I don't know, okay. They have to spend longer time because it makes reading difficult. As also seeing the paintings is difficult. So in this way, I'm making this reference also to how fast, the fast pace in which art is seen these days. Today, who has 10 minutes to stand or sit in front of a painting? That would be a luxury, or any other work of art. People is these days seeing something and thinking more about the next thing they're gonna see than what they have in front of them itself. So by trying to make this kind of intriguing, you know, system of signs, like writing, image making, but in a difficult way, I intend to capture more the intrigue people when they see it. So I try to control a little bit the amount of time that people spends in front of this work. And using this same alphabet, I like to create pieces like this, in which I take the textual element from the paintings, and these elements become each single dot that refers to particles in the type font, then becomes a LED bulb. And then I create these signs, or I don't know, wall pieces, sculptures, whatever you want to call them, that refer to these shortcuts that we use these days when we text. I believe that most of us, we don't write anymore, we just text. And text is not being well respected lately, even though we need text to eat, to as a matter of survival. We use text for transportation, to buy things, even people who find sex online, food online, many different things. And text is becoming something more and more used, but less and less respected. So I like to create these monuments to text in a way that I use these abbreviatures that people create to write less and quicker. And I dedicate days, I hire an electrician, I buy all this electrical material, and then these things become, a labor of 2 3 days. They cost some money to be made, and then you have to feed them with electricity for many days to make them exist. I've made different indoors too. This is a museum in Cuba, or some like, oops, like this in Miami, during one Art Basel Miami, or some like this in Mexico City where I live. So whenever I make exhibitions, like I have one of these installations here too. I like to extract one element from the paintings and make it become one of these installations. And yeah, I don't know if now I responded the question, but um,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and as part of the Open Studio, you are also showing one of these installations.
yeah, it's a new one.
Yeah, and you're also showing, now that I'm seeing this image of the video poems, you will be also showing some of your video poems,
Yeah,
right?
I'm showing this. You see it on the right, but they will be seen in just one monitor as a reel. You
Mm-hmm.
see one after the other.
And for the video poems, it's like the same kind of idea of mixing images with text, but also with sound, and of course, a movement that the video provides, which is very
They're made
interesting.
they're made in the format, the vertical format of a smartphone, which I think is becoming, the most universal format for moving image these days. And they're intended to be sent, by WhatsApp, by probably the way that images are shared these days most. And it's this idea of also making this type of work that is not sellable, that is not, that you could just share as you share a GIF or something like that. And it could be another function of art in these times, I believe.
Sure. Sure. And talking about contemporary issues and technologies, I want to ask you about that idea or that notion and practice that is very new and people are very interested, which is the crypto art, the NFT kind of realm. I know you have experience already with that, so I would like to ask you about it.
Well, I wouldn't consider myself a crypto artist, but I've done crypto art. Um, I've been invited by, more than a year ago, I was invited by one of these portals who make that, to create this, which is I made this edition of NFTs, which are now, very popular. Back in that day, we didn't even know what NFTs were. I have to admit that I made my first NFTs while still looking for online what an NFT was. But behind all my work, there is a lot of digital background, even in the paintings and everything. So it is a very familiar media for me. So whatever, the only thing that changes when it becomes crypto art or an NFT, like many people calls it, is the way that they commercialize that. It they assign a number on the blockchain to every single one of these pieces in addition, and it becomes a non-fungible token, which that's what NFT means. And basically, what is more interesting about it is that it's not only the commercial side of it, but this idea. I don't know if you've heard of the metaverse. The metaverse is this new realities, this new world that has been created in 3D. It's like an alternative world that you can only access through virtual reality glasses, and there is people creating an alternative world called the metaverse, where still everybody's free, all land is new. You can buy land in the metaverse. You can create museums in the metaverse. It's all programmed. It's all drawn in 3D. And it may look like a joke, but just by observing that, you can find out how bad is this real world that people wants to create another world and escape to that through glasses. And that for me is the most appealing part of it. So all these NFTs are the way that art is being also sent to that metaverse, to that new world. And there's people who is building museums, actual museums, where you can go in and go through and see all their collections and all that in the metaverse, where all these NFTs become the works of art of that other world. In that other world, you know, you can create hospitals, you can create food which is free of chemicals, and it's like a better world. And
Yeah.
and that's what I love about this idea, even though for many people it's still a non-tangible thing, and I know it will probably never be. But if you ever take a pair of those glasses and look into the metaverse, you might start believing it. So that is, or at least start believing it maybe a little bit more than we believe in this world we live. So it's a world with no politicians, with no taxes, we know. It's kind of like an ideal world where art, it's a probably a more organic thing to exist there. And so that's my relationship with this.
It's interesting because it seems to be something very popular right now, and that it's going to somehow be present in the future of the arts a little bit more. So the whole
Yeah,
virtual
but it's becoming
existence.
popular because people is hearing about all these records of selling NFTs for millions and all that.
Yeah,
But most people don't really know the real finality of that, and what that idea comes from. It's not just an extravagance of lots of rich collectors who wants to throw their money by buying these JPEGs. It goes beyond that idea. People is not only buying NFTs, they're buying land,
yeah,
this metaverse. They're investing in the metaverse by constructing things. It's unbelievable. It's something that makes you admire human civilization in a way that we have to think about so many things that we see today that at the moment they were made, they would look like incredible. Imagine when they built the Empire State Building or Brooklyn Bridge or things like that. If someone would show you that in paper, you wouldn't believe it. So today, that's a way that people is pushing civilization, some people, and I think it's very interesting. You just have to see it on by yourself.
Sure, I have to. I
That's
haven't
that's what
seen one.
amuses me most, more than, yeah, of course, the commercial part is important, and it's nice too, but that's what amuses me a lot about this idea of creating crypto art.
Yeah, that project for the future.
No, it's the present, it's not the future, huh? You just have to break that barrier in between the tangible and this non-tangible for now thing.
Yeah, got it. Interesting. That's quite a new realm universe for me. Uh, but it's very interesting.
I invite you to research on that. It's unbelievable.
So coming back to our earthly reality,
This fucked up world.
tell me a little bit about your upcoming project at Times Square. I know
Oh,
you're working on a project soon for that area.
yes, I am. Let me try to share something. I am working on this installation for Times Square, which is going to happen next year, where I invited this poet from New York City. His name is Barry Schwabsky. He's also a critic, an art critic. See full screen, and now I have to go stop share. Let's see, share screen, and we are building. Are you seeing this now?
Yes.
We're building this tower where people can go one by one, just one person at a time, take this elevator and go up in the tower, and you can stay there for as long as you want on your own, protected by this little forest of nature in the middle of Times Square. So the tower is built over a haiku that Barishwabsky wrote, and I am, composing with my alphabet in the same way I compose my installations with LED bulbs. And yeah, the idea is to explore, this what you can do in the middle of a place like this where you can never be on your own, and giving this possibility of like a sweet spot or a comfortable spot in the middle of all that. When you're on your own, you can see things from a different point of view, uh, but you're also protected by nature, which is our natural shelter as human beings, that doesn't exist in this environment anymore. And we're also creating one night performance with in relationship with this on the screens, and we're bringing a gospel chorus to do a performance, a live performance. But for a month, the piece will exist that way. The title of it is it's Overlook, and the idea is that we create this overlook for people to come up and experience Times Square seen from a different point of view, and that's it.
Interesting.
That's
So when is this going to happen?
next summer. It was gonna happen this summer, but it was delayed because of many, we have had delays with the pandemic
Yeah.
situation, the production, and also that, there's so many regulations to make sure that this can be okay. But and then this is a piece that because of of so much natural plants that have on the top cannot exist during the winter, because otherwise we'll have pushed the time a little bit and do it, for the end of this year. But that cannot exist with snow and with cold weather. So we decided to take it to the next spring or summer. The actual date will be announced later, but that's also something I'm working on right now.
Yeah, that's great news. It's going to be very soon. Summer, it's tomorrow. We
Oh
could
yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, not this summer. The next
Oh,
summer.
not this summer. Next summer.
The next
Okay,
summer.
so in a
Yeah, it was
year.
gonna happen this summer, but it's gonna be impossible. We still looking for the right elevator for that, and there's so many regulations. You cannot imagine.
Yeah, it's difficult. I imagine. Yes.
But we're making it.
Yeah, sure, sure. Interesting. So we'll be able to experience Times Square from a
From
natural environment.
yeah, you
That's
can
very
go there
simple.
and meditate in the middle of there. You can read the Bible. You can whatever you you enjoy most, and not being bothered by anyone.
Interesting. Yeah. Great. Yeah. So I think we can open now for some questions from the public. If people want to ask something, please write it in the chat. So because we still have like 10, 15 minutes more. So if you have any question about Raul's work. In the meantime, I have this last question, we could say, coming both of us from Cuba and knowing that this label of Cuban art, it's been around for so many time. I'm wondering, what do you think about that label, that notion of Cuban art, and if you feel comfortable with being identified as a Cuban artist?
Well, I'm a Cuban person,
Yeah.
and I happen to be an artist. That's no, but my idea of art is that art should go beyond nationalities and cultures. Art is something that should unite people and establish dialogues. And sometimes cultures become a restrictive thing. So yeah, I'm Cuban, and I don't happen to make art about the Cuban situation of the Cuban problems like many Cuban artists, because I'm not interested in that. But yeah, of course, I'm Cuban. I was born in Cuba, and I love my birth country. And I haven't lived in Cuba for many years, but I consider myself a Cuban.
Yeah, and about New York. New York, you told me it's a very important city for you. You lived here before, so how have these 2 months here with the energy of the city have been for you?
Oh, it's great. It's a different city from the city I lived in 20 years ago. Mostly because of the pandemic. Everything has
Mm,
changed, but the pandemic made a real drastic change. And I was very much involved before in dance, music, culture, and all that when I lived here. And all that party doesn't exist anymore. I
yeah,
used to be DJ, house music producer, and all that, which I still do, but not here anymore. But when I lived here, I was very much involved in that movement. But today, it's something that is almost, it's happening in transmissions like this, like DJs are playing at home and broadcasting live through
mm,
through internet, but almost, I see the city opening up a little bit, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm very familiar with this city. I feel like at home here, and it have been home before, and I love it. This is a place I love.
yeah, and it
It's
have gave you
very
a lot
good.
of energy
Oh
because you
yeah,
have produced a lot of work these 2 months here.
I when I came here for the first time many years ago, like 25 years ago, maybe more. Uh, I think I acquired that energy. I have never lost anymore. I still live at that pace wherever I am.
Yeah. So someone is asking, what clubs did you spin at in New York before?
Before, oof, many like Twilo, Vinyl, Central Fly. I don't think they even exist. The last club that I don't know if it's still open, Cielo, um, but you know, some of them.
Wow, interesting. Any other question from the audience?
Feel free to unmute yourself and to ask the question directly.
I wanted to ask about the project in Times Square because I'm curious to understand how did you get to it, or how do you get the license, or why did you choose such a complicated location for your piece?
I did not choose the location. The Times Square Alliance has a program inside it called Times Square Arts.
Okay.
So I was invited to, they invite artists to present projects. They have two, if you get into the Times Square Arts webpage, you can see that they have two, let's say, environments. One is it's called At the Crossroads, which is about making big installations or small installations like this. And the other thing is called Midnight Moment, where they use the screens of Times Square once a month for 3 minutes, and they put videos of art videos from an artist, or two or three, for 3 minutes once a month before midnight.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, so check it out online and you'll see. So I think they invite artists to present projects. This is something that has been going for like 3 years already. And I wanted to make a tree house in the middle of Times Square, which, because of many regulations and a lot of work, was changing and transforming, and this is the closest result to what is gonna be. This is a render, but it's we've been changing and changing and changing over many times, and this is what it's gonna be. Also, you know, as you may think or see, it's a very expensive thing to make, um, and they have to little by little start acquiring sponsors and different monies from all, you know,
Yeah.
many sources. And now we've been lucky enough to get money even from the city of New York, who like the project, and but we still we still need more, because it becomes a more and more expensive thing.
And you do an elevator and not stairs because you need to have it accessible?
It's because of disabled people.
Yeah.
Before we were having the staircase and maybe a lift for disabled people. But then we decided that since having a lift for disabled people was a must, and still just one or two persons can be up there, not more.
Yeah.
It was better just to have that and not a stair.
Yeah.
So this is the reason, but there are many different types of that, and then now we're dealing with the different laws for the weight, the amount of people. It's I'm in the middle of this, but this has been taken care of by the people from the Times Square Alliance, who are specialists in
Right.
that. And you know, they deal with so many technical issues that I don't even understand sometimes.
Oh.
That that that's what we're working on.
Well,
And
good. Yeah. Well, good luck. It sounds very. I don't know. It's a big. I don't know. It's a big
yeah,
stretch.
I have never made an installation so complicated, so expensive, with so much budget, with
Yeah.
anything. You know, this is like a big thing, and that's why we want to do it slowly, to be able to accomplish a good thing. You know, and really being able to polish, because this is something that has never been done before. Is a new thing, and whenever you're doing something that there is no experience about it, you're always facing you know, many questions and
Yeah. Okay.
unknown things.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
So I think we are at the end of our conversation. Thank you, Raúl, first of all, for
Pleasure.
sharing
Thank
all
you,
of
everybody,
this.
for joining, and
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure to be
and
here.
of course, we want to invite everyone for the open studio on Saturday from 11 to 6 p.m. at the location in Midtown Manhattan. You can find the information on the chat that Lulu has just posted or on the website of RU, on the newsletters. Thank you, RU. Thank you, Lulu and Natalie that is not here right now, but thank everyone for making this conversation possible.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.